Hello and welcome to Mr. Peacock's Square Plays of week number lucky 13. Football against the number, coming to you a little bit early this week as promised, live from Midtown Atlanta. Real quick to recap last weekend. Up and down, up and down. Penn State catching 4, no cover against Michigan. Missouri catching 8 points at home. Kind of felt like they were hanging right in there against Tennessee. Unfortunately came up a little bit short. Vanderbilt catching 7 at home. It was never really good. I should have taken the under in that one, frankly. But Southern Miss laying 21 points. When that game was 31-21 in favor of Old Dominion, you had to think Mr. Peacock was in a lot of trouble. Mr. Peacock thought Mr. Peacock was in a lot of trouble. Okay, it was 31-21 Old Dominion when I'm walking into Sanford Stadium. Okay, for the overtime thriller against Georgia Southern last week. Time I get into the stadium is 42-31 Southern Miss, and then I check again in a minute and it's 49-31, and then at that point I said, hey, here it comes. Looked at my phone again, 56-31 final. Southern Miss allows 31 points and covers the 3-touchdown spread. I love it. So 1-3 on the week. We're back to even Steven 500 now on the year at 25-25. Folks, we're getting week number 13 started off, and we're making a familiar drive out I-20, out to Speedway, through East Georgia, through Augusta, and out to Columbia, South Carolina, folks, where at high noon, I like the South Carolina Gamecocks catching 17 points at home against the Clemson Tigers. I am well aware of what happened with South Carolina last week, and as soon as that game happened, I thought there's going to be some real line value in South Carolina next week against Clemson. Okay, this is a vicious, vitriolic rivalry that these two teams play. I think that this is the most hateful rivalry in all of college football. We talked about this before. It just doesn't get the pub that Michigan and Ohio State or Auburn and Alabama do, because frankly, South Carolina and Tennessee, or South Carolina and Clemson, are both typically not very good football teams, and that's the case for one of them this year, that's for sure. This is really all that South Carolina has left to play for. I have no illusions whatsoever about South Carolina actually winning this game, but I think South Carolina is going to keep it close. I think this is a 10-13 point win for Clemson. I will point out as well, the Clemson Tigers, other than their trip to Miami, have been very unimpressive away from Lake Hartwell this year. Game number 2, we're going to Auburn, Alabama. Folks, have been there. Okay, just out 85. It's a pretty easy drive from Atlanta. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. local. And you kind of wonder how this game gets on CBS anyway, given what Auburn is this year. Folks, I like the Alabama Crimson Tide laying 14.5 points against Auburn. I know this is a lot to lay in a road game situation. I know this is a lot of points to lay in a rivalry game. Alabama's just a heck of a lot better than Auburn. That's the bottom line, okay? And I think this is probably the best Alabama team that Saban's put out there since probably 2011, ultimately. And Bama's just salty this year. Gus Malzahn made those comments back in August about how Auburn could have easily scored 60 points last year in the Iron Bowl, which I think is a little bit specious, if you will. But don't think though that those talking points haven't resonated through the Alabama building since Gus Malzahn made them, and especially this week. I think Alabama's looking to make a big statement in this thing. Bama really pounded Auburn pretty good last year anyway. It was really about a 17-point game last year anyhow. Bama's better than they were last year. Auburn's not as good as they were last year. I'm looking honestly at 28-30 point win for the Alabama Crimson Tide in this one. So take Bama laying 14.5 points on the Big I, and this may be the final regular season game for Vern Lundquist too. You never know. Well, I guess we'll call that Army-Navy thing, but you get what I'm saying. We might be in Vern's final season here, given how that's gone this year. Game number 3, folks. We are going to the west end of... No, we're not. We're going to Knoxville, Tennessee. But this game features a team from the west end of Nashville. I'm so used to saying it. Folks, and now check this out. This is a 5-star lock of the month. You were instructed to bet 2 times the normal amount on Vanderbilt, Tennessee under 40 points. How much explanation do I really need to put out there? I should have just bet the dadgum under on Vanderbilt last week. I mean, Vandy can't really score any points. Tennessee's offense is frankly not very good. I mean, they've done some good things this year, but going up against the better defenses that they have, they've really kind of struggled a little bit. I think that Vanderbilt's playing some good, solid defense. I don't see Vanderbilt actually winning this game, but I think this thing has 20-3 just written all over it. I think this thing is going to go way under the total of 40 points. That is why this is a 5-star lock of the month. Game number 4, we're going to Gainesville, Florida. Folks, I've been there all the way down I-75. It's a long drive, boring too. I think this game kicks off at 7:30. It's a night game. Folks, I like the Florida Gators catching 2.5 points against Florida State. What Florida did last week is what Florida does in the month of November, okay? I mean, Florida has absolutely played some garbage games in November the last couple of years between the Georgia game and the Florida State game. That's what they do. It's a cultural thing, okay? Florida's defense is very good, very athletic, very fast, and Florida State is going to have a very hard time scoring points in this game. The Gators' offense is nothing to write home about, obviously, and Treon Harris is a turnover waiting to happen. And I think Florida's going to be probably a 20-point underdog in the SEC championship next week. They should be, anyway. But with all that said, Florida can still stretch the field a little bit with Antonio Callaway. They can run the ball a little bit when they need to. I think you're going to look at a more simplified game plan, too, for the Gators. But again, rivalry game, and I really like Florida's defense in this thing. They've played a much harder schedule so far this year than has Florida State, and I think that's going to play in the Gators' favor as well. So, I don't love betting on the Gators, but I'm doing it this week. Florida plus 2.5. Turning now to our mailbag. This week's letter comes to us from Roger from Westlake, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. Roger writes, "Is it hard for you to select just one good letter this deep in the season?" Well, yeah, Roger, frankly it is. Frankly, it is hard. It's been hard for a while now. So real quick, to recap, week number 13, we're getting the day started off early in Columbia, South Carolina. We like the South Carolina Gamecocks catching 17 points at home against the Clemens Tigers. We like the Alabama Crimson Tide laying 14.5 points on the road at Auburn. We like the Vanderbilt Commodores, the Tennessee Volunteers, and a 5-star lock of the month, playing a football game under 40 points. And we like the Florida Gators catching 2.5 points at home against the Seminoles from Florida State. So I wish you the best of luck, and we will be right back here for the finale of Mr. Peacock's Square Plays of the 2015 season.